TwerskyWellness.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining us from this week. We've got people joining from all over the universe, which is great. And we're glad to have you here. Welcome to another special edition of the Tuesday Twersky Wellness Institute's discussion group. My name is Tzvi Werther, and we're really glad to be able to partner with Brett and to be able to bring to our group and to the wider world, really, because these sessions are recorded and they're posted on YouTube. Brett, would you like to just jump right into it?
Okay, just very briefly, a reminder that the word that I say are in English, but the message is not in English. Okay, whatever that means to you, I will leave that to you. But so, cool. So, let's go. First of all, I want to make a correction from last week. Okay, there was the question that Bessia asked, which is, are the principles in the formless? And I replied, yes. But 2 days after that, I kind of got summoned to the principal's office. Okay, so I went in there because I mean, let's be honest, I visited the office many times. He's always so loving, so full of acceptance, full of compassion, full of understanding. So it's easy for me to go there now. And he basically said, no, that question Bessia asked, are the principles in the formless? And you said, yeah, I did. And then he said, well, you might want to take another look at that. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, sir. And that was it. So I reflected on it, and then, it's not yes. The principles are not in the formless. Because if you think about it, mind is the energy of all things, whether in formless and form. The mind is the all-encompassing, or the background, or thing, and everything stems from that. So the formula is the result of mind rather than the other way around. Okay, the same with the other two principles. So I can't say that the principles are in the formless anymore. Okay, the funny thing is, given what we have learned thus far about the formless and the form, all the insight that we have, all the things that we get to learn about, right, stem from the formless in the first place. Okay, so thank goodness for mind that we have the form. Thank goodness for the bridge called thought, so that the form can be transformed into form. And thank goodness for consciousness, so that we can be aware of the form. Okay, so principle, cool. I just wanted to point out that correction. Right. Okay, moving on. I want to carry on with the big bubble and the small bubble. Formless. I'm going to get a piece of paper. And we have lots of forms. There was one that I didn't put in last week that I should have done. I think it's the overriding form compared to all the other forms. And it's called the past. Okay. I can't believe I forgot that. Right? So please don't rely on me to remember everything when we pack our bag before we go on holiday. It's like leaving the passport behind. But, okay. So the past is in form. Okay. Other thing I'm going to put some more on there just to give you more of a sense of just how much form, the world of form that we go through. So we have here belief, identity, or who you are, that kind of thing, or what you've been, that kind of thing. Okay. Metaphors are in the form. Okay. This is a long word I can't put in the bubble, so. I got an email earlier today from one of the marketing gurus, and he said, picture this. So he's trying to get me informed, hoping that's the answer. So that's not quite it. Oh, okay. We have business, as in doing business, yeah. But business, okay. That's why I say I speak in words, but the message not in the words. Well, the three more would might be a little bit stretching things, but I want to stretch things. Okay. We want to put that going in there. So all of those are forms that made possible because the formulas went through thought, the bridge. Okay, so we really do live in the world of form. Okay. Oh, there's one more I didn't see on here. Going to add another bubble. Behavior. Behavior is in the form. Okay. So, I mean, at the end of the day, there's going to be thousands, millions, billions, trillions of forms. And yet we are always in the world of form because it's all created through thought. You can't get away from it even if you tried. Okay? So I just wanted to emphasize just how far-reaching this is, just how much our lives are being played out in the world of the principles. Okay. So what I want to do now is to concentrate more on a couple of aspects that I think is worth exploring just for a bit. Okay. We have a bubble that says psychology or mental health. Okay. Today, psychology or the mental health field is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay. Right. And it all, I mean, if we think about it, there's this DSM-5, which is a massive book of diagnoses, that kind of thing. Right? The way I understand it is that if you have the link or the bridge between the formless and psychology, it creates a foundation that's based on principles. Okay, so suddenly psychology from a principle-based foundation is going to appear very different to psychology that does not have this bridge included. When there is no bridge, right, you get things like the DSM-5, you get things like tapping, you get things like CPT, you get things like techniques, you get things like coping strategies. Okay, so that's why it's a really big industry. Self-help stems from that as well. But the moment you know that there is a bridge called thought from the formless, then your foundation is going to be based on what the formless bring to you, rather than the form being your foundation. Okay. So now I'm not saying that psychology is good or bad, or this is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, or the good stuff or bad stuff. Right? I'm saying that I'm more interested not what's in the form and not what's in the formless, but the fact that there is a connection between the two. Okay, if you see that there's a connection, then your understanding of the form that you're in will be enriched by the formless. But if you don't see the connection, you're kind of swimming in the dark, believing that you're on the light. Okay, so I just wanted to point that part out. Another one I wanted to point out is this one. But I used the word last week, which is reality. But I've heard quite a few ways of how people talk about reality. Right? So I don't really tend to use that word reality as much as I used to. Right? So what I tend to say now is what you see. Right now, I can see I've got monitors in front of me, and I can see the people's faces on the monitor. That is my form right now. Okay. For you, the fact that you can see me and hear me is coming to you via thought, via form. And that was created through thought. If it wasn't for thought, there'd be nothing to see or nothing to hear. So thought really is a fundamental principle that allows human experience to be experienceable. Okay. So what you see, the other one is what you hear. Okay. Often I go for a walk down the country lane. It's right next door where I live. Right? And sometimes I would go for a walk, and I wouldn't be wearing my implant at all. Okay, so I cannot hear anything in the environment. Right? And then eventually I realized, hang on a minute, I'm not wearing my implant, but I can still hear something. Right? What is that something? And then it hit me. Thought. It can't be. I'm hearing thought. Right? So that's really good news for me. Okay, so one of the things that I really appreciate about the principle is that in the world of matter, I am profoundly deaf. I wear cochlear implants that I can hear around me. But in the world of thought, I am not deaf. Okay. There's something in the missing link. I can't remember what it was. If I could bring it out, I could, but it says something like because the deaf man cannot hear and the blind man cannot see, doesn't mean that they can't experience whatever they want to experience. There's something with you always. At that point, that's when the deaf man will hear and the blind person will see. They were talking at that place, not so much in the world of matter. Okay, makes sense so far? Cool. Now, the next part I'm going to do is more of a potential pitfalls. Okay? Only because I've seen people fall for it time and time over again. And by bringing it out, hopefully you can maybe a little bit more aware of it. Okay, so there we have the formless and the bridge called thought. And as I said, the form can be absolutely anything. Everything is formable, I guess. But one of the biggest ones is this one. The form called the three principles. I was absolutely shocked when I saw this for the first time. Because what I did was completely innocent. I didn't even know I was doing it. Right? As I was learning about the three principles, I was like, oh, this is what the principle is. It's kind of like it's in front of me or out there kind of thing. It's somewhere, okay? But as I learned more about the nature of form, I realized that what I was saying about the three principles was in form. And that made me realize, I don't think that's the three principles. It just looks like it's the three principles. Okay? So what happened is that when that bridge disappears, right? Without that bridge, because we live in the world of form, we're living in the form. And because there's no bridge, it looks like the formula is not there. It's invisible. Okay? So it's like the three principles in form is the beginning of capturing our minds and thinking about the three principles, personal thinking about the three principles. Right? And a lot of people get caught in that. Right? So people who are introduced to the principle for the first time, they go, oh, the principle is great. And then after a little while, they become disillusioned, discouraged. This is another idea. This is just another bad Emperor's Euclid. I'm not going to bother with the three principles ever again. And therefore, they leave the field. Never having any idea that the three principles that they saw wasn't the three principles that we're pointing to here. That's probably the only reason why they get disillusioned with the three principles. Not because of the three principles, but because they didn't instinctively realize that this bridge called thought. Okay. Right. So here's the question. If you wanted to learn more about the three principles from the person, right? And this say there are two people, A, B. Right? Person A knows nothing about the three principles, but intuitively knows that there's something there. They intuitively know that they're connected to something bigger. Right? And person B had a mountain of knowledge about the three principles, but never quite having the insight that this bridge is fixed. Who would you rather learn from, A or B? For me, I go straight to A. Because what emerges out of the formless is always going to be better than what you will find in the form. I remember early on when I first started learning about the three principles, I met some people who are incredibly intuitive. And I asked them a question. When they told me their story, I asked them a question. But how do you manage to get through so many things? You're incredibly resilient. How do you become so resilient? And there are many variants of this, but the general response is, I don't know, I just am. That's simple. So don't just listen for what they are saying. Also listen for what they are not saying. So when they say, I just am, they're not saying they haven't thinking. They're not saying they try and work it out. They don't say, it's really ordinary. Okay, so the three principles in form is not the three principles. Okay. Another trap. The formless in form is not the formless. If you think that's the formless, you're saying you're going to get an insight from here. We don't want that. If you want to go into the formless in form, we're only going to add another layer of form on top of another. We call it overthinking. It doesn't look like overthinking. It looks like it makes sense to go in that direction. But trap. But tempting. But as soon as that bridge appears, right, it's like, oh, it's nothing like what I thought it was going to be. Okay. Right. So there's this sense of you're looking for something when the bridge disappears. It's kind of like you're looking for something that you kind of already know what you're looking for. And I think that's a mistake. Right? I want to say a couple of sentences from Beyond Time, Space and Matter. Right? On the very first page, introduction, third and fourth sentences. Begin quote. It has often been remarked that the best things in life happen to you when you are not looking for them. I can attest to this without the slightest hesitation. End quote. There are other words for the formless, like wisdom or nothing. Right? That I came across a stopper, which is, how do I look for nothing? I couldn't. So I quit looking. Like, and then suddenly I'm in another dimension. I don't know how I did that, but it happened. So it's that kind of thing, not the concept of nothing, genuinely nothing. Okay. Does that make sense so far? So all the forms that we go through, including the three principles, I'm just going to make bubbles, I'm not going to name them anymore. Right. Given that everything stems from mind, mind is the energy of all things, whether in formless or form. Right? So we can see that every form is occurring within mind, it's occurring inside of mind. Okay, it's not happening outside of mind. There's nothing outside that can help you. There's nothing outside that can hurt you, because there is no outside. So all the forms are inside. Although I get it, because we live in the world of form, it really looks like, no, not inside. Got nothing to do with me out there. I get that. So that raises another interesting question. Right? Are the forms that we go through inside or outside? Right? With the emphasis on the word or. Okay? Meaning, what is it that makes the or possible? What is it that makes the or possible, whether the form is inside or outside? The answer is, it's got nothing to do with the form, and it's got nothing to do with the formless, and it's got everything to do with this bridge called thought. If you insightfully know that all your forms is an outcome of what went through thought, it's inside the same form, but you don't insightfully know their thought, that same form is going to take on an appearance of being on the outside. We are very fortunate to have a reference, meaning we know how it works now. We can now compare what we're going through with how it actually works. And you can start to see the gaps. When you see the gap, you've now got the opportunity to close that gap. And it's like, now that's what's actually happening. Okay. Make sense so far? One last thing I want to talk about this. There are many words we can put down here, okay, in the form. There are many words we could put there. And Steve shared one last week at the end of the webinar. Spiritual, right? If it's spiritual, right, you're going to need the principle of thought as a bridge in order to spiritualize the forms. Right? Very simple. If you don't have that bridge, the form won't look like it's got anything to do with the spiritual. It feels more like matter. It feels more like object. It feels more like it's solid, rather than something more fluid, more dynamic, more ethereal even. Okay. Another way of saying it is light. Right? So light, if you have the principle of thought, then the light can travel over the bridge and light up your form. Now you can really see what you're doing. But if you take away the principle of thought, the light can't get to the form. Then suddenly you're in the dark. You're swimming in the dark, trying to figure out where's everything, where's all this, what to do. All that thought just kicked in. Okay. Now, what I now like to talk about, what I call PBQs, principle-based qualities, as opposed to man-made qualities. Okay. For example, confidence and confidence, love and love, mental health and mental health, resilience and resilience, compassion and compassion. Let me demonstrate further. Confidence in the form. Who doesn't want to be confident? I think we all want to be. But here's the trick. When you have that bridge, right, that confidence came from here in the first place, the true source of all things. Okay, so you have I mean, another word for this might be God. I mean, I don't quite see it like that, but it is divine intelligence. The word, and I actually prefer this one. Wisdom. So when you have that bridge, the confidence is derived from the formless. So you, and because the principle is this, the bridge is there, so you have a principle-based confidence. However, if you take away that bridge, right, you've got confidence, but you've got nothing there. So you're now having thought about, how do I be confident? How do I become more confident? How do I not be afraid anymore? How do I develop this? How do I go from 2 out of 10 confident and go up this step to 8 or 9 out of 10? Right? So we come up with ideas how we can man-made do it. So the confidence without the principle is a man-made idea that requires doing. But confidence from the formless, from the source, requires no doing. There's no practice. It just naturally happens. Because the confidence, if it comes from here, go through the bridge, and now you're feeling unconfident. And you'll know where it came from. It didn't come from you. It came from something bigger than you. And you can replace this quality with anything. Compassion, resilience, mental health. There'll be dozens. Okay. So for me, I started to see the difference between a positive feeling and a positive feeling. I started to see the difference between resilience and resilient. If the true source of love is here, then one realizes it's not about any one particular person. Because you need to be, in order for there to be a person, you have to stay in the form, and then I need to do something to let that person, or the other person needs to do something to make me let that person. Right? But here, this stems from nothing. So suddenly this love is much more universal. So it's not about one person or a group of people you like, is universal. Okay? Okay, I'm just going to do the last part because I know we haven't got much time. Taking a closer look at the bridge called book. The OT, the principle of thought. We know the form is created through thought. Okay? And we know that the formula puts something into the principle of thought to create the form. That's insight. Okay. In contrast, we have a personal thought system. How does that work? We have personal thought, personal thinking, intellect, ego. The example I used last week, the haystack that doesn't have a needle in it. It doesn't matter what you call. They're all the same thing, we just give it different names. So when we have thinking, personal thinking, that also have to go into the principle of thought to create the form. Okay. So far, we've got 2 ways of using the mind, right? But there's one thing not quite right here. It looks too the same as one another. Right? So then I realized, right, if the principles really is the difference, that's giving me a clue to how we can learn a little bit more about form and formless. Okay, so at the moment, because they're the form and we know the principle of thought is involved, that means the form has no power. It doesn't have the ability to capture your mind. It doesn't have to make you go out of control, put it this way, right? Okay, and that's because of the principle of thought. Okay, so the form has no power. But if you take away the principle of thought, right, then suddenly the form has the power. It's going to capture you. It's going to take over your mind. It's going to become your boss. It's going to make you think the thing that you don't want to think. I can't help it, kind of thing. Right? And it's at that point that the form automatically makes you have personal thinking. What makes you have personal thinking is not realizing or not insightfully seeing that the principle of thought is involved in the first place. Because it makes the form the thing that you have to deal with. It makes you go into the form. Okay. Now, since the principle of thought is always the constant, it's ever present, right? We can't really take away the principle of thought. It's your own instinctive direction where you go with it. Okay? So I can put the POT back there again. Right? So now we have a key difference between this side and this side. A very, very significant difference. Because if you look over that side, forget this, right? As my friend and colleague said once, Dana Della Porta, she said, we now have a complete circle. That is the beginning of the hamster wheel. Once you get on that hamster wheel, you're going to rotate and rotate, go faster and faster and faster. That's what happened to your mind. When you don't see the principle of thought, the form has the power and it makes you think. It puts something into thought that doesn't look like thought because it's a thing or thing with, and that creates more form. Like a layer of snow, and you're putting another layer of snow on top of it, and another layer of snow on top of it, and you keep on going and going and going. And then the snow at the bottom starts to get compacted under all that weight. And if you keep adding them, it becomes a glacier. Okay, that's what happened to people when they go over there. Right? But the good news is, it still only takes one thought, just one insightfully thing that the principle of thought is involved. And once you see it involved, then the power of the form is no longer have the power. If it had no power, then suddenly its ability to make you go into the personal thought system is removed. Sidney said once, one step to the outside is a step in the wrong direction. We now know scientifically what that one step is. It's not the form, it's not the formless. It's insightfully knowing the principle of thought is there or not. That's all it is. It always comes back with thought. Okay. So let's look on the other side. Like we have the formless, principle of thought, and form. If you know the principle of thought, the form has no power. Okay? So we can't go this way because the form needs to have power in order to use it. Right? So suddenly, when the form has no power, we start using this side. but there's nothing going in there. There's no link between the form you're having in the moment and the formless. The form came from the formless, yes, but the form can't make you go into the formless because the form has no power. Okay, so suddenly the idea of this takes on a very new idea. For example, there's nothing going into the formless. There's nothing going into wisdom. There's nothing going into the infinity. There's nothing you can do. Right? So I came up with a quote, which is, the formless begins from nothing, and the personal thought system begins from something. If there's nothing going into it, right, we must have a quiet mind. We're not thinking because we're not over there. We're here. And this is another way of saying a state of no thought. Another quote, I came up with it as well. Like, don't take the form with you. Here's the form. You can't take this form into formless. You can't put anything into the form because the formless it always distorts. Nothing can go into it. It's inside out. It's not outside going into the formless. So that really did a lot for me, insightfully seeing that one step to the outside would automatically get my personal thought system kick in. How many times have I tried to stop myself having personal thinking? How many times have I tried not to do it anymore? But once I saw that step, I understood, and my mind quieted down so much. I don't need to think about the three principles. I don't need to think about anything because the formula is infinite. It has everything. And it's going to give you something that the personal thought system cannot give you. Okay. So, if you I know we're coming to the end now, so I'm going to start wrapping up. In the form, I've just replicated the diagram. It's not a replica, it is the diagram. Okay. What you have just witnessed is the form. What you have just witnessed is what thought created for you. I'm not inviting you to dive into that form. I'm inviting you to hear the formless that within you to give you something that this diagram can't give you. If you want the diagram to give you an insight, you're saying you want the form to give you an insight. It has to come from your heart. I think there is so much goodness, so much richness, so many qualities that in your heart, it is waiting to be set free. And we know what it is that will set it free. Insightfully seeing the principle of thought that unlocks what's in your heart, what's in your mind, what's in your soul. That alone would take somebody out of the dark and into a light worth living. Think about all the people that are suffering terribly. They're just one thought away, one insight away from realizing principle of thought, and then they're free. Free. I'm done.
Thank you, Brett. Tell me how you feel about this. I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me to take questions at this point. However, if you're listening, if you've been listening, and you have something that you want to say, that you want to share, not questions, but just something that you want to share from your heart, something that you share about what you're seeing, unmute yourself and I'll call on you. Tippy.
Yeah, I just want to say again, it's the second week, but really, Brett, you have a very special way of sharing the three principles and the way we experience life. And I'm just really blown away again, because I was really wondering what you would bring today to the table. And again, very, very special, amazing, powerful. Just wanted to comment how awesome it was.
Thank you. Thank you.
No one else has anything to contribute. I thought that, just to me, what occurred to me, that it seems, despite whether someone could fully comprehend, repeat, or explain what you presented here today, the fact that in this direction lies the promise of a life worth living, simply by investigating these metaphors, not that will provide the power, but that there's something to learn here about the principle of thought. There's something very simple, something very uncomplicated, uncomplex to begin to recognize that has a transformative power is really quite, it's remarkable that anything like that even exists. There's no therefore at that after the end of that sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vasya.
I'm just struck again, Brett, the way you've diagrammed this and pictured this for us, and the way it kind of resonates with me internally, that realizing that there are built-in principles. It's part of being human, that there are built-in principles that our mind, our ability to experience life includes these built-in pre-existing principles, connects us to a realm of wisdom and intelligence and knowledge that was always there, and we couldn't access it in psychology. And so all we had was our experience and the circumstance, or our experience and the past, or experience, or whatever it looked like our experience was connected to. And it's just interesting to me how difficult it is for psychologists to look at this. And to acknowledge that the presence of the invisible, of the invisible realm of the mind where mental health lies. It's not in the techniques in those 400 psychologies that are out there right now. So it just hits me over and over again how brilliant and what a kindly design this is, that we've been blessed with. So thank you again.
Ultimately, I think that should go to Citibank. He's the one that brought it all up for us to explore and see what's possible, and the possibility start opening it up. I'm like, it is really possible. Thank you. If I may wrap up very briefly. For me, as an individual, just knowing that the formless exist and the formless can come to light through the principle of thought, it is one of the greatest gifts I could know. I dread to think what my life would be like today without it. No, I've got some incredible friendship. Steve, Bessie, Hank, people in my group. The principles helped me to transcend all the differences I had between myself and religion. Now I'm with them. I have friendship with them. It's astonishing. I'm still shocked. Though today I'm now in a position where I'm not really bothered about the principle anymore. I don't think about it. I'm not attached to it because I know the formula is there and that's enough. And whatever comes, I take it. Okay. So Steve and everybody, thank you for your time today and last week. It's been lovely to have the privilege of sharing it with you, and Steve for your incredible understanding, patience, and most importantly, dear friendship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brett. Everyone can unmute and show some love.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brett.
Okay. Thank you all. God bless you all.
So much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I'm going to hang out here for about 10 minutes. So if anyone wants to hang out with, more than happy.
I just think maybe I'd like to show some appreciation for all that I've got from Keith and from Brett, who I always writing to tell him what I think about him, and Basia and Svi and Shandy and all the others who have shown us this blessing that we have. Thank you.
Rosella, you yourself have made some pretty powerful contributions. And so, you're running your own group and you have quite a bit. You've added a huge element to the PTI group. And so we don't want to leave that out. And one of the things that occurred to me in listening to Brett today, he went through a list of things. He said, there's confidence and there's confidence. There's love and there's love. There's, what are some of the other ones that he mentioned? There's resilience and resilience. It's like people we've been resilient our whole lives. There's always been resilience. There's always been love. There's always been confidence. Like that's not new. And I'm not speaking for anyone else, but for me, it is a very different relationship to confidence and love and resilience or anything at all when the stance towards those feelings showing up in us is not that it's been generated by something else in our world or something that we've done to make it happen, or someone that's provided us with a feeling, or a particular flavor of ice cream that has provided that feeling. It's a very different relationship. The mind, the way we use our minds is very different when we know that love emerges out of the formless. It always has, and it always will. Confidence emerges out of the formless, over the bridge of thought, into us. It always has, and it always will. In the previous way that I've related to love and confidence and resilience, or the way the mental health world today relates to those things, is that mental health and resilience and love and confidence and all those good things are provided by, and there's a long list of things to which they point to. All of them are in this universe: good parenting, good genes, good biology, good breakfast, all kinds of things that can provide these things for you. And those things then preoccupy their minds. We're starting to see that yes, it may not be true that we can sort of generate confidence at will, or manufacture love on a whim, or make ourselves feel better just because we've pushed some button. So we stop thinking about that. And it's not something that we need to do. It's a formless energy from before life that manifests as love. It shows up as I love you, or I don't love you. That's how it shows up. But it has a spiritualized quality, a principle-based quality, a PBQ, as Brett calls it. So that it certainly leaves our minds thinking differently about how to go about finding love in a relationship. So that instead of looking for love in a relationship from our partner, well, we don't look there anymore. Which sounds a little bit nutty, I know, but it really is different. Anyone want to jump in here? Share anything?
I don't, this is off topic. I just can't ignore Keith's presence here, and how much he's given us, sort of a first generation, directly from Sydney Banks. So now, Keith, you're sort of watching, what would this be? Third generation, second generation? I don't know. But I just, it must be very satisfying for you to see your student, because I mean, Brett was a very close student, to kind of see, in a way, a sort of evolution, of or a new way of presenting it. And I don't know, that just must be emotional for you in some way, I think, perhaps. But I'm not asking you to say anything. I just wanted to acknowledge.
It is it sort of opened up, blasted open, the world of insight and possibilities, and the limitless possibilities of the mind. And I'm absolutely thrilled. And I'm humbled, and I'm very pleased to be with you all, and to be with Brett and Svi and all of you, to be on this explosion of newness that is very inspiring to me. And you're absolutely right. And I thank God for that, or thank you all for that. Thank everything there is for that, because Sid said, that these principles are immortal, and he did recognize that. He knew it and talked about it so eloquently, and I'm just forever grateful for this, to be alive now, to see this this happening. You're right, Basha. Thank you.